Brian, so many years of Street Fighter V have passed up to this point. And there's countless memories, man, the highs, the lows, the hype, the excitement, stuff that we're never going to forget. So we got to talk about, man, our all-time favorite. This makes me really emotional to think about. Yeah, it actually is making me emotional to think about, man, like our favorite Street Fighter V moments. I'll kick it off. Wolfcrone versus K-Brad. That actually happened. I want to say that saga was so godlike, and I think the pop-off happened at that big pop-off happened at Final Round 2017, yes, which is my first ever major. And I was there I was right there in that circle, actually. I probably didn't even have the confidence to like move up to the front yet to see what was going. But I saw through the crack, like, but next to Smug or something, what was going on. Yeah, make some room, please. Excuse me. And man, bro, that pop off right there, the whole saga was godlike. But that was one of the greatest pop offs I ever seen. And you know, of course, K-Brad goes and he removes Wolfcrone's headphones or something like that. He's like, look at me. And I think one thing that people don't give enough credit for, I know Wolfcrone's played the villain role in the scene. People got to give him credit for the way he handled that pop-off. That was fire to me. That was just as dope as K-Brad's pop-off. He claps. He sat there clapping and took it. And you know, he's like, all right, come on, bring it on, you earned it. And that was it. I like that a whole lot. But then also, you know, Brian, they had the E-League part.
Yeah, of course I had the E-League part. It's funny you mentioned, though, that you were there in the crowd. I was actually there playing casuals, I think with maybe Danny Fam, like, what's going on over there, you know? It's not every day you see a pop-off like that. And I was trying to piece it together because there were no words. It was a silent pop-off. I had to go watch the stream archive, like, what did he say? And then I had to piece it together. He said the most important thing at all, which is nothing, because nothing needs to be said, right? I love the pop-offs where words don't need to be said.
L.I. Joe reaction, bro.
Hey, a picture says 1,000 words, right? The faces in the background spoke all the story. It was like a Renaissance painting in the background, the proportions of it all. So it was actually a very beautiful moment and fun for everyone involved. But something a little bit more wholesome that I'll harken back to in the early days of Street Fighter V is, of course, the L.I. Joe EVO 2016 Top 8 run. I think, besides a few other moments we're going to mention here, I think that was the biggest moment for the Street Fighter franchise in a very long time, because that was the moment where we had like America's heartthrob. Like that was the golden boy. L.I. Joe was representing not just Street Fighter, not just the FGC, but all of USA in that moment. EVO was on national television that year. It was being broadcast on TV, which I know to many of us it seemed like a big deal, but you know, to the rest of America, to the rest of the world, to older generations, TV is the format, right? It's old media, and we made it onto old media. And the storyline was this guy from Long Island, from New York, against all odds, you know, with his bald head, his pink backpack, and his dad with a handlebar mustache cheering him on, and the back of the community behind him, and being a figurehead in the community. He manages to qualify for top 8 on the biggest stage of fighting games of all time on national television, and actually manages to get another win on that stage. And it was just a moment where I feel like everyone had a protagonist to root for, because L.I. Joe is such a lovable guy, right? Like he's just super positive, a joy to be around, kind of elevates everyone in the room, one of those kind of people. So it was such an easy person for everyone to root for and get behind, and to do it in a way that was broadcasted to national television. I think we couldn't have picked a better representative in that moment to say, hey, go get him, Tiger. You know what I'm saying? Like you're showing out for USA. And he didn't even have to win. If he had won, it would have been great, but him just getting that W, you know, showing he can come there to play, taking his L gracefully, looking at the stage, giving the bow, and saying thank you for having me. You know, I think it was just a beautiful moment for everyone in the FGC.
You can't talk about beautiful moments. Which shout out to L.I. Joe, by the way, because actually at that final round, I remember telling him, like, bro, I was watching that Evo run, and you a damn American hero. I remember telling him that in my first major.
Exactly.
But I got to make sure I mention one of my favorite all-time Street Fighter V sets, Daigo versus Tokido at Kimono Michi. You guys have to remember, everything about that set is what Street Fighter is about. If you hardcore Street Fighter fan, then that is like a holy grail moment in fighting game history, easily. I remember even the build up to it. Tokido was the guy. number one, not number two, not debatable. He was the number one player in the world, dominating. And remember, when this starts being brought up, Tokido in the build-up is like, he's telling them like, man, no matter how hard I try, like I haven't been able to surpass Umehara. But people who haven't been around as long as Tokido to know all of the history may not have been looking at, people weren't looking at Daigo as who he is, right?
Right.
It's like it's like they were seeing Michael Jordan on the Wizards and like, what? This guy's the GOAT? Why do people say he's the GOAT? You know how many people have said, oh, it's just marketing and all that. I got so many debates about that. And Tokido, he knew the truth. And so this match was so important to him. It was deeper than money. It was deeper than just, the Evo Cup. Like this, it was a whole lot of pride on it. And they put on an absolute amazing set. I want to say Daigo won either 10-4 or 10-6. It was, when I say it was amazing, it was decidedly Daigo's favor, but it was hype and it was godlike. Remember, Daigo taught us that new strategy, or just displayed, I don't want to say taught, but he displayed that new strategy of just standing still with Gao. Even the fact that Daigo was going for like EX flash kicks in the first game in clutch situations, and afterward Daigo broke it down and said, oh, I wanted to show him that I'm serious, like I'm willing to do anything to win. He actually said that. And of course that all came to the most beautiful and amazing moment where at the end, Tokido, the murder face, the greatest player in the world at the time, drops tears. He actually cried. And that just went to show, I don't know, man. I just think that right there, Tokido kind of spoke for all of us that have ever put time and effort and our hearts into the FGC. And it just showed the level of passion that we have for it. So that's one of the best moments in history.
To give it all you got and still come up short. And then at the end of that, to keep going, right? So I think the second part to that story is, so he's achieved so much, but he couldn't beat Umehara. Like there's still the one guy, the guy at the top of the mountain who maybe people aren't really looking at him as winning the championships right now, but Tokido knows that's the guy I need to beat at the end of the day. All this is preparation for that. He falls short once again, but a couple years later, he actually finally gets that run back in Topanga League. They play a 1-7 set, and he actually manages to win that set dominantly. I think it might have been 7-0 or something. I think it was 7-0.
Yeah, I think 7-0.
And once again, after that set, he shed another tear. Like, finally, in a long set format, I finally gotten a win over Daigo Umehara. So it just goes to show that even when you're on top of the world, you still have those personal goals, and everyone, no matter how successful they are, has that drive to want to win so bad, like no matter what, like that undying passion to achieve that victory, which I think drives a lot of us competitive players. And it's just a beautiful moment of it. A beautiful moment of vulnerability by Tokido on full display there to just show how passionate he is about it and to remind us why we're passionate about it as well.
Something that I'm going to put on there, man, another, I guess you could say like lighthearted one, but it was super like Midwest versus West Coast. That was one of the dopest Street Fighter V moments of all time for sure. Of course, for me personally, and I'm sure for you being a part of it. But I really think that was one of the times where it was like, it was just done so right. You know what I mean? Like, it didn't cross the line of being super like too negative, but it was negative enough. You know what I mean? It was competitive. And bro, like the matches were OD, and it all came down to my man's Just a Kid. I think that was when he started this reign. That was when he started this reign of terror that he's on now. Mm-hmm. Like after he went and just bodied the whole West Coast on his own at the end. Of course, everybody did their part or whatever, but that was when it was like, oh man, this dude is on something else. And now you see him sitting in the Capcom Cup. So definitely one of my all-time favorite Street Fighter V moments.
It definitely started a career, it feels like, for Just a Kid. Yeah. It was the springboard for the success he's having today. But another big one, and maybe the biggest to me, that I want to bring up, it's not one moment, I guess. It's more of an ongoing story. That story is still being written today. Of course, I'm talking about Punk versus IDOM. They finally clashed at Capcom Cup 2019. And at that point, IDOM, he's beating everybody in the world. And we're all like, yep, I expected that. People aren't ready for IDOM. But then when it comes to grand finals, Punk versus IDOM, Punk already put IDOM in losers and the winner's final side. We thought it might have been a wash, but history, had something else to say there.
And of course, we can't close out our list, which, mind you, there's a whole lot of different things that we can bring up. We only have but so much time. But one of the things that we got to make sure we bring up is, of course, Evo Champions. The first one, Problem X. Bro, I remember watching that grand finals of Problem X versus Tokido, and Problem X was on winner's side, and he got reset. I 100% was like, oh, it's over with. There's nothing he can do. Tokido has the download. It's done. Problem was not hearing any of that. And with his country and his continent, I would even say, but especially the UK, on his back, he goes and beats Tokido. And bro, Logan and them were to this day, ooh, they're still insufferable. But oh my gosh, I feel like Logan was more happy than Problem X, but I think he was too. So.
And that was a big win for EU, and we're still holding that here in the NA because the EU now has 2 Evo wins in Street Fighter, and we got none.
Settle.
So congratulations to Problem X and the EU for that one. Big moment for sure.
And the biggest match that we've had at Evo throughout all of Street Fighter V's history was Punk versus Tokido. Oh my gosh, we were so close. America was close to getting there. There are so many layers to that, man. Him and Tokido had played earlier, bro. They played before top 8.
That was the big one because Punk was most scared of Tokido, and Punk had been he was the golden child up to this moment, right? He burst onto the scene late 2016, won everything. Almost every event you threw at him, he was winning in 2017 up until that moment. So it was almost expected of him to win, which is that's unfair to say for someone that young and that like even relatively new to the competitive scene. It was so much pressure that he had to deal with just by the nature of the events leading up to it, right? It was almost unfair, but I feel like we expected him to win. Like it was expected that Punk was going to win that year.
Yeah, everyone expected it. I mean, and like, again, to be as young as he was at that time, to have that much pressure on him, for him to even make it to grand finals says a lot about him there. But Tokido came in there with an entirely different energy. He stuns Punk and then hits him with a taunt combo.
The people like to say to this day that that's the moment that Punk broke, right? Like that was, you could see it in the gameplay. You could see the nerves coming in. You could see that he was starting to make more nervous decisions. His execution wasn't as on point. He was kind of teching a little frantically. And it was just from that moment forward, it was just downhill for Punk and steamroll for Tokido. And man, it was just a devastating moment for America because we thought finally we have a moment for an Evo championship. And then Tokido said, sorry. Nope.
And then the post match is just as classic as the match. Mm-hmm. You know, of course, first on Punk's side, him crying like that. You know, at that point, Punk is really, I mean, as much as Punk could talk trash stuff now, at that time he was a lot more, I would say, aggressive with that sort of thing and playing the villain role. So seeing him cry like that, it was like, whoa. You know, you got to see the other side. You got to see, the Victor Woodley side of things, and you can see how much
it's real. It really means a lot to him, right? You didn't really see that much.
Because he tried, as a competitor, you kind of put that face on, but right there you could see and him crying, you immediately seen the hours of work that he really put in, his passion that he has for this, his love of the game. So I thought that him crying right there was really beautiful, like character development in the movie or something. And then Tokido with the most beautiful, saddening, bro. I can't believe this is the last episode of the season. Well, Tokido with the most beautiful statement that I probably heard from a fighting game tournament. He says, fighting games are something so great. And me, I definitely agree with that wholeheartedly. Brian, I'm sure that you do too. Mm-hmm. I want to make sure that before we get into this top 8, that I say thank you from the bottom of my heart to the FGC at large, especially the Street Fighter V FGC, for supporting us all this time. And I mean that as far as no neutral and even outside of no neutral, man. Like, this has been a family environment, support and love that, I don't know, man. I feel like I'm completely blessed and lucky as hell to have been a part of up to this point, and I can't wait to see what happens in the future. Brian, what do you got to tell to the people on the last episode of No Neutral, possibly for Street Fighter V?
Possibly so. I mean, you stole the show right there, Rob. What else can I say, man? You're trying to get the waterworks going here. Yeah, fighting games, something so great. What can I say? I feel like this community has given me something to be passionate about and something to look forward to every day, to engage with, to grow with, and to express myself with. And I don't know what I would be doing that through if it weren't for the FGC. So thank you so much for supporting us, supporting No Neutral, supporting me and Rob, and supporting each other, and just being there for each other, and continuing to enjoy not just Street Fighter but fighting games as a whole. And it matters because we care. And at the end of the day, as long as we care, we have something beautiful to look forward to. So thank you very much.